Hi, everybody. I'm Frank Stanishi of Candid Frank Live. Welcome to the Spanglish World Network on Zingo TV, channel 250. Please remember to download the Zingo TV app at the respective app stores for iOS and Android devices. While you download, make sure you rate and leave a comment. Both apps are absolutely free. Zingo TV is available on Google Chromecast, Amazon Fire TV sticks, Roku sticks, and also on all smart TVs 2016 forward. Now on Candid Frank Live, joining me is Aaron William Freeland. Hey, Aaron, how you feeling today?
Doing very well, Frank. How are you?
I'm good. Monday, we missed out on the show because Aaron was too busy eating. Did you recover okay from all that food?
I did actually. Osmos, not a sponsor, but Osmos was absolutely fantastic for dinner. It was a great choice.
We'll call it a sponsor for today. They can send us free food another time. Um, yeah, no, good for you. Merry Christmas, of course. I hope you had a great Christmas and everything you expected. You got everything you wanted. You got, and even stuff that you didn't know you had coming. And I hope whatever you had coming was good. I had
It
some
most
stuff.
definitely was.
I was worried about some of the stuff I had coming.
Bags of coal.
Definitely was worried. Yeah, it's all fun. Okay, in all seriousness, I am really, the top story today has to be the fact that the double IHF Junior World Championships were canceled today. That came after games were forfeited. That came after Connor Bedard equaled a record by Wayne Gretzky scoring 4 goals in one game. Um, Justin, I guess, Sordif was suspended for an act that he performed. And then throw on top of that the Ontario Hockey League, the feeder system for one of the feeder systems, the Ontario version, they canceled 9 games. Aaron, your opinion on this? This is gravitas because with all the other things that have been canceled in hockey, this was the one thing that we all look forward. At least I do. I shouldn't speak for you, but it's one of the things I look forward to every year, like the Grey Cup, to the same level.
No, it's the juniors, the World Juniors are definitely a bucket list item for me. I know that the last time it was in Toronto, I did actually manage to catch a game, and it was a miracle I was able to get tickets. But that was a great experience. This is one of those things that you expect every year like clockwork because it's been a tradition for the past 44 years. This is the first time that they've had to cancel it since in the past 44 years, so it's going to have a big impact. This is on top of the fact that the IAHF was already receiving for having canceled the women's under 18s in Linkoping. Now, the IAHF's reason for canceling the women's under 18 championships in Linkoping, Sweden, was because the men's were more important because they drew more fans, which enabled them to put on the women's tournaments. This is coming from Nick Taldif, president of the IIHF. I could see your eyes rolling underneath your closed eyelids there, Frank. But the justification for canceling the women's was because the men's made more money, which enabled them to support women's hockey better by not having women's hockey.
Even if that's true, okay, and I'm trying to walk the fence, right, and I hope I don't fall with one leg on each side of the fence. So I'll do my best here. Even if that's true, it's a dumb thing to say.
It very much is. He very much used his outside voice when he should have been using his
He
inside
should
voice.
have kept
Um,
that to
but
himself.
after the USA forfeited a game against Switzerland, Russia forfeited against Czechia. What are you going to do? They aren't properly isolating the players. The players are staying in a publicly available hotel, and apparently some of them caught COVID from a bunch of wedding guests at said hotel. So it's
To your point, unfortunately, the hotel they were staying in, folks, they were in a hotel full of people who were not masked, and you didn't know if they were. I don't think they even knew if they were vaccinated or not. So they
no.
were just blending with the common public. Which, I mean, I don't mean to put down the common public, but the unmitigated public, if you will. And unfortunately, this is the price you pay. Um, it's sad because, we all knew this was, for those of us that have been paying attention, okay, and not listening to what we hear in one little corner, but if you paid attention to the big gigantic picture, and you were able to have a kind of filter for information that you garnered from what's going on in the world today. The reason I'm putting it this way is because a lot of this stuff that we've talked about on this program has come back to roost, right? We knew that with the winter coming, cases were going to go up, right, Aaron? It's not a surprise.
No.
We knew that if not everybody got vaccinated, there would be a pool of people who were more prone to getting the virus and worse, suffering from it in a severe way. Not all of them, but too many of them. Well, too many. We say one is too many, you know. And so we see this coming, and it's like a moving train, and there's nothing you can do about it. We try on this program to speak about vaccination, which at the end of the day, the bottom line here, we're going to talk about COVID and about being tired of it because, we're back to doing lots of stories about COVID for obvious reasons.
Sorry, Frank. You dropped out on me for a second.
I totally dropped out on you because I was actually opening the door for you. We've talked. No, it's okay. I was basically trying to get from you is we've talked about this. There were times when we were just sick and tired of talking about it because it becomes tiresome. Like I said, when you see that slow moving train and you can't stop it, you see it coming, you're like, Paul Revere, but your voice just disappears and you can't say anything. And it's a helpless feeling when you actually care about what's going on in the world, like I know both of us do. Whether people agree with us or not, we care. That's one thing I can say about our program and our relationship. We care. We don't always agree. Admittedly, we're probably more on one side than we are on the other. From the people on the outside, I could see them saying it that way. So here we are. We lose a junior event, which could very well have not been lost if there was a bubble adhered to. That's the first thing I want to say here, that this is not a question of blame. It's a question of fact, right? We have seen in the middle of the pandemic, we have seen the NBA do something. We've seen the National Hockey League do something in the midst of the pandemic when it was even, I think, more deadly, right?
Because we didn't have as much accessibility to vaccines at that particular point.
Right.
Yeah.
And we have the advantage now that we know, for those of us that care about facts and make sure that we're repeating facts that are true, that it's a fact that if you're vaccinated, you're less prone to getting the disease, the virus, and you're less prone to suffer from it the way you do if you're not vaccinated. Correct? So
Yes.
maybe we've let our guard down, and this is something that unfortunately we as human beings do. And I think you warned about this. I think Eduardo warned about this. And I was the closest to being the dumbest because I thought people would react in a more intelligent way, knowing where we've been and protecting ourselves from getting back there again. And this overconfidence, which I think is motivated by the COVID stress, the COVID burnout, however you want to call it, Aaron, it puts people in a position where it's not just that they're tired of COVID, they give up on actually dealing with it. And that's the scary part that I think you've tried to point out.
Now, I think a lot of people are trying to out of sight, out of mind it is what it really boils down to. It's, well, I don't have COVID. I don't know anybody that has caught COVID. I don't know anybody that's even been remotely close to anybody that's had COVID. Therefore, I can't possibly catch COVID.
Yes,
right?
and you're speaking the royal I.
The royal we, yes. Yes. because I've lost a friend in Philadelphia to COVID. I have had a friend in Illinois have to get a double lung transplant because of COVID. And I have another couple of friends that are long haulers. As a matter of fact, another one of my close friends was diagnosed with COVID 3 days ago. So he got it from somebody at work who wasn't quite sure where he got it, but was at an unmasked party or event over the weekend. So it all adds up.
I can tell you that as of yesterday, a person that we know, a friend that we know, has ended up with COVID as of yesterday. So yes, so I know it exists. I know it's out there, and so not to review, we've lost a great event, the World Junior Championship, because the players were not insulated against getting the virus in a way that other leagues and organizations have handled it, right? That is, to me, that is the IIHF, that is whoever's responsible for that event, and whoever, they need to really understand what their irresponsibility did. Somebody has to come forward and say and take responsibility, Aaron, and not because I want them to be punished or to suffer, but to put it out there. Here's what we didn't do that we shouldn't have done. There should be a report, in other words, forthcoming from the province of Alberta, because they permitted this. They permitted this activity. They have a set of protocols that they expect or don't. So how did this happen? This is a large disappointment to many people here from a fan perspective. But more importantly, it's proof that we lack the responsibility, or not all of us have the ability to be responsible and respect COVID-19. And that's what needs to happen. We need to respect it. And in this case, it wasn't respected. Am I overstating?
No, I think you've actually hit the nail right on the head there, Frank. There is not enough due attention and, dare I say, respect paid to this virus for its transmissibility and its lethality. That's the long and the short of it. More Americans have died to COVID-19 than died in any of the wars that America has fought. And yet people still insist that it's just a cold, which absolutely boggles the mind.
It is to some of them. That's the problem, Aaron. That is the problem. They speak the truth. Many of them are speaking the truth, but the truth does not speak to the facts. It speaks to personal experience. Personal experience isn't enough when we do research or try to come up with a plan to stop filling our hospitals, right? That's the issue here. It isn't whether COVID has mild cases that people 24 hours they're done. I got a couple of texts from somebody who basically said he and his family had COVID, 24 hours, they were cool, everything was fine. That's not a lie. It's not an untruth. It's not something that I can sit here and say, well, damn that person for saying that. No, I remind people of those people because they are the trap that we fall in. It's much like when people, how many people, I'll put it this way for the folks that are listening, how many times have we, as everybody who's watching, if there's anybody watching, you, Aaron, myself, have we made a mistake while driving and we just avoided something bad happening? That doesn't give us permission to do it. We say to ourselves, "Oh my God, what could have happened? Maybe I should be more
A
careful."
little more careful. Yeah.
Maybe. And that's the part that bothers me, and that's the part that keeps dragging me into this. People will be irresponsible. We almost have to make them be responsible. And that's sad. That is truly sad.
Well, I mean, I'd hate for people to learn from their mistakes, especially in something like this, because from all the accounts I've heard from people that have had it and from people that have lost loved ones to it, this is not something I would wish on anybody.
And to bore people with our attention to detail and my getting lost in minutia, I apologize for getting lost in it. But this is how I learn about stuff, and this is how I take in information. I don't take what someone says verbatim and then repeat it. I listen to stuff and then wait to see pertinent information and join the two. Here's what I'm going to say to you. Responsibility for COVID. The Toronto Maple Leafs have players. This is a sports program. So watch, we're going to get into sports now. The Toronto Maple Leafs have players coming back, Aaron. They have players coming back. You would not be surprised, right, that they would be getting COVID tests before they come back, right? They
Correct.
get the tests until they're clear. So they take other tests that they have to take, and one of them that they're taking that I don't know if you're aware, other people are aware, but soon as I heard them, my antennas went up extremely high. They are doing on Leaf players before they come and join the lineup. They're doing heart tests on them. Do you know why?
Well, there was risk of myocarditis and pericarditis associated with both the Moderna and the Pfizer vaccines. So that's not really surprising. If you're bringing back a prize stallion, you want to make sure it's healthy before you put it on the track.
And I'll be more specific. There have been a few college football players who died from that. And that's why that test is important. Now, not only is it because of the vaccine, it's also because of corona. Before the vaccines were being used, there were college players last year before the vaccines were ready for use that were dying because of a problem with their heart that they traced back to having COVID. Worse, what you talked about is basically living with COVID. Some people are forced to live with COVID, and some of them develop a heart condition because of COVID, and it's a long-term condition. So what you said, these are expensive human beings that mean a lot to a team. They drive a lot of they financially we invest a lot. The team invests a lot in them, right? Fans invest a lot of the in players, just out of devotion, right? That's a given. But there's the financial, like you said. I don't want to compare them to horses. They're human beings that perform a service that attracts a lot of people and generates a lot of money. And so they also have a thing called the NHLPA. So there's a whole bunch of people that are concerned about the players, not only that they come back, we know that. That's obvious. We want the players to come back. But there are a lot of people who are interested on how they come back and what constitutes them being able to step on the ice again. And that's one of the things about COVID that people need to understand. You can survive it, but sometimes there's a bit of baggage that comes with it.
No, and long haul COVID is a thing. So it is something that the teams need to be doubly aware of, and the NHLPA needs to protect their members.
We love the players. We love other human beings. I know I do, and I don't have difficulty saying it. I have had issues in my life where my life felt very insignificant, unimportant, and I felt like I didn't deserve to live, suffering from depression. It has taught me to care about other people even more because I realize how little we can care about ourselves. And uh, obviously, we also know how much people care little about others. We've seen that too. So it enhances my desire to be, considerate of other people and their health. So COVID is something, Aaron, that we need to remind ourselves that it's not gone yet.
Yeah, it's one of those constant vigilance situations. You need to be constantly aware of it and on your toes.
And this situation with the junior team is a reminder that it ain't over yet.
Exactly.
Right.
You may be tired of COVID, but it ain't tired of you.
Okay. So now with COVID and what it's doing, the National Hockey League is canceling game after game after game. And the Leafs were going to play before New Year's, not anymore. They were going to play New Year's Day. Not anymore. They're now down the road in January where they're going to be playing. They've had, I guess, what, 9 games canceled?
Well, the National Hockey League has actually canceled 9 different games so far. Yeah, and it's due to attendance restrictions in Canada. Is what the NHL is blaming it on.
And that's
Um,
what Bettman said in protection of, see, the franchises, I think, don't want to not have customers there. And now the NHL through Bettman is playing hardball, right? They're saying, well, if you want us to play, you got to let us have full attendance. That's what they're saying, Aaron.
mhm.
That's what between the lines that Bettman is saying.
Yeah, no, the day on the game on the Feast of the Epiphany between the Leafs and Habs is definitely done, as well as the Sens and Jets game on New Year's Eve. So that's it's all part and parcel of what they're trying to shift everything back into the states essentially, because there are fewer travel restrictions in the states.
Right.
There are fewer COVID restrictions. They're allowed to be a
Attendance
little more free with that
restrictions,
sort of
less
thing.
attendance restrictions.
Yep, exactly, and that's where they make their bread and butter. So it's not
So
surprising.
so again, um, have we learned? I don't know.
No,
Have we
we
learned?
really haven't.
I don't know. In support of what we're talking about, COVID, I'll mention a few things that you sent to me. 15,000 active cases of COVID in Alberta. Dr. Deanna Hershaw says, this is bad. Kenny asks Albertans to reconsider New Year's plans. COVID in Saskatchewan province reports active case counts are going through the roof. Ontario, Quebec, the same thing. Now
Just
you talk about the numbers going up and why you think that's important and what I've left out as far as numbers are concerned.
just to give you an idea of what we're looking at here, okay, for Alberta, there were 2,000 new cases based on 11,500 tests. Okay, that is a 17% positivity rate. Then you're looking at 1,600 new cases on 7,200 cases on Canada Day. Sorry, on Christmas Day, which is 22% positivity. Then there's another 1,400 cases on December 27th based on 6,500 tests done in the province, which is again 21.5%. You're seeing over 1 in 5 people currently have COVID in Alberta who are getting tested. There are, of course, the brilliant people who are saying, well, we should stop testing. Then we won't have as many positive cases. That's,
Aaron, this is where I understand what you're saying, and I'm not siding with people who say that. But what I am going to say is, I think it's not that I don't think it's not that I don't want to respect testing. It is unreliable. We both know that. You can't deny that it's unreliable at times. It doesn't always tell the whole story. It only gives us a sense of what's going on. It doesn't really tell us how many cases are out there because not everybody's being tested. So
oh
how
no,
do we
I mean,
really know, right?
Uncle Dave is going to hack his way through it because he's just having a bad bout of smoker's cough for the past 2 weeks. That's all. He's got to cut back on the darts. He'll be fine.
So my point is, while we're arguing about testing and stuff like that, I'm less concerned with testing, and I'll explain why. I'm more concerned, as I've always said to you, I've been consistent with this, and you've usually agreed with me. For me, it's what's going on in the hospitals, the beds, the ICUs, and the people that we call heroes that are working to keep people alive, right? In some cases, healthy, some cases, sadly, alive. Um, we have cases here, folks, and this is something you need to hear. For example, in Manitoba, they've had to ship people out of the province to be taken care of that had COVID. They've had to borrow nurses from other provinces to take care of COVID. The problem, again, to me, always is how stressed are our hospitals? The whole point of all this, folks, to me, isn't the testing. It's not even the cases. And I'm sorry, I hope I don't sound like I'm arguing with you for no reason, Aaron. I'm just trying to make my point. My thing is what I want people to understand is that's all, you know, bathwater. In my mind, that's bathwater. To me, the baby is having a system in place, a healthcare system that can take care of its people and isn't overrun by illness. Okay. Now, having said that, people think, well, just because the ICUs aren't full or the hospitals aren't full, that's okay. We're handling it okay. But you do realize a lot of operations are being canceled. You do realize the hospital system is working strictly on COVID and not paying attention to many other things that were, that hospitals are, without COVID taking care of.
No, and I do agree to a certain extent that ICU occupancy is a reasonably accurate gauge of where we stand. But again, the issue that we run into is who's not actually getting tested. And the hidden COVID, which is going to be, if they survive, a further burden on our health system further down the road.
And here's where I'm going with what I'm saying. I think it's important that the media and the government on TV screens everywhere, they should have a running count of the people who they can talk about the cases. That's fine. Talk about the cases if you want. But I say that muddies the waters. All they need to do is to talk about how many people are in the hospital with COVID, and they need our system's help to survive. And we need to attach statistics, because to me, the main issue that we have to deal with is vaccination. That's the real issue. Unfortunately, that's the real issue. There are people out there who, in their own minds, and I don't want to bang them over the head and say, you're wrong, you're wrong, you're wrong. That's not what I'm here to do. There are people who don't want to get vaccinated for religious reasons. I respect your religion and your beliefs. Trust me, I do. But I just want to make sure that I don't ignore the facts to protect people who don't want to be vaccinated. They should let us know how many people are in the hospital who haven't been vaccinated. How many people who are in the hospital have been vaccinated? And of those people that die, how many of them aren't vaccinated? How many are vaccinated? If you want to break it down into one vaccination, two vaccinations, and a booster too, if you want, you can do that. Because I think that's the main information, Aaron. While we argue about testing, 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 we're not paying attention to the important fact, and that is people need to be protected and prevent the virus from doing harm. And the number one way of doing that, Aaron, isn't testing. It's not testing. It's getting a vaccination if you are eligible. And by eligible, I mean also if you feel you shouldn't, there should be justification for you not doing so. So if the facts are true, if it's true that the majority of people who are dying are unvaccinated, shouldn't that be enough for people to understand? And who cares about testing? What I care about is people surviving. No, Aaron, that's all I care about. I don't care how many people are on the highway. I want to make sure that they're driving safely, and I want to concentrate on the ones that aren't. That's all. I'm done. Go ahead.
No, that should be everybody's goal as well. Is not you need to look when you're posting statistics. You need to know how many people died because they weren't wearing their seatbelts. That's basically what it boils down to in this situation here.
Right.
How many people? How many people weren't wearing their seatbelts? How many people were speeding? Yeah, exactly. I'm double vaxxed. I am taking as many precautions. Actually, I got boosted yesterday, so I'm taking as many precautions as I can for this sort of thing. And I've got the vaccine trifecta. I am trying to make myself as safe as I possibly can be.
And you admit that what you're doing has risk attached.
Yes, of course. It's informed consent. I go into this knowing that there are possible side effects.
But the risks in your mind, and in my mind, by the way, I won't speak for you. I'll just say in my mind. In my mind, getting the vaccine gives me a 1 in a million risk. Not getting the vaccine gives me 1 in a 1,000 risk. In my opinion, those are numbers that we can argue on. But the fact remains that the risk I'm willing to take being vaccinated is far lower than the risk of not being vaccinated. So it's like for me, it's like when I tell my kids, I can either say to them, don't cross the street, or I can say to them, when you cross the street, look both ways. It's about mitigating risk. You can't stop crossing the street. We can't stop living. If we want to continue to live, the answer is there. It is there, and eventually, I guess, I don't know what it's going to take, but people are going to have to make a decision, that matters, stopping what we're going through right now. Canceling the junior event isn't what's important. It's canceling our lives. That's the part. And to take this home, if you will, the COVID thing also creates the problem where we don't have kids going to school. We also know that people are suffering, and I'm on the side of the people who say we got to get back to normal, because not being normal means there's more people overdosing on drugs, there are more people drinking, there are more people abusing people. There's, the social interaction of children is important for children to live in a way that makes them mentally healthy. So, hey, I agree with all the stuff that people are saying on every side. Everybody has a valid point, but I want to cut through the bullshit, and I want to say get vaccinated, because at the end of the day, that's what it comes down to. If you survive COVID 90 times out of 100 because you're vaccinated, and you survive it only 10 times out of 100 because you're not vaccinated, come on.
I think that's as good a place as any to leave it, Frank.
Yeah. All right. We got some extra time. We can get away from COVID. We can talk about some other stuff. There were some hockey games. Perry came back to haunt his old team, didn't he?
Yeah, he finally scored in overtime he scored late in regulation and pull out one
Right.
at overtime as the Lightning beat the Habs.
And that, there was some unhappiness by Ducharme, who felt that Gallagher got the penalty because of who he is, not because of what he did.
It's entirely possible. A lot of it is called based on reputation. So what are you going to do?
But if you've got a reputation for running goalies and you look like you just ran the goal,
yeah,
there's a good chance you're going to get a penalty, right?
Well, it's either you get a penalty or you run out of time to make it back. So
yeah, New York FC garnered a lot of awards, which coincides with the success they had this year and the championship they won.
Yep, they finally won the MLS title, beating Portland on penalties. So congratulations to them on that.
Toronto FC appears to be making some big moves, looking for at least one very good Italian soccer player that might spring loose and end up here in Toronto.
Yeah, there are talks of bringing him here. At the same time, there was discussion about bringing Giovinco back as well.
Absolutely. Atletico Ottawa releases, or Spain produced a pretty good coach, but he's gone now.
Yeah, unfortunately, it didn't quite work out. They'd had him in February 2020, just prior to the pandemic. Ottawa finished 7th in the first stage of the Island Games, which basically served as a CPL's truncated season, and was last in the 18 league at 6-14-8. His contract expires at the end of the year. And Atletico said the two sides had agreed not to enter into a new agreement for the upcoming Atletico Ottawa campaign.
Mark Mendocino, public safety minister, calls out a tweet.
Yeah, this is one of those things where it's an openly abusive tweet directed at the Canadian Medical Association president. There's got to be limits to behavior like this. You got to be a little bit responsible, folks. The tweet basically threatened her, saying, "Hey, look, we've had our eyes on you from a socially safe distance, of course, and we have some great footage of you that we're biding our time for to release," which sounds vaguely menacing and slightly stalkerish.
What's this about two toppled statues in Manitoba?
Ah, yes, this is actually a fun one. So now, I don't think a lot of people saw this far ahead at the time, but there were two statues, sorry, that were pushed over. The government's response to that would lead to the resignation of a cabinet minister, prompt criticism of then Premier Brian Pallister from other government caucus members, and actually might have sped it up. The statues of Queen Victoria and another smaller statue of the Queen located close to the Lieutenant Governor's residence were toppled. So that's evidently dissatisfaction with the old colonial system and colonial rule.
Criminal justice system stories. First, jury finds Ghislaine Maxwell guilty in sex abuse trial. She's going to be convicted, or she's convicted. Her punishment is about to come out. It may even come out while we're talking here.
Now, the jurors actually deliberated for a full 5 days before finding her guilty on 5 of 6 counts. The judge had asked them to extend their days by about an hour each day when they were deliberating, as well as asking them to consider giving up their Christmas break to continue deliberations over it. As it currently stands, though, she's looking at anywhere from 5 to 40 years in prison for each count, and she was found guilty on 5 of 6. So that's anywhere from 25 to well, you do the math. 200. There we go.
I'm looking here that it could be as much as 70 years on the 6 counts.
Well, it all goes with precedent and what the judge decides to slap her with. So,
yeah, absolutely. In other criminal charges, no criminal charges pending for New York Governor, ex-New York Governor Cuomo, over 2 kissing complaints.
Now, there were investigations over his office's efforts to mask him from lawmakers when it came to this sort of thing. But yeah, at this point, I guess they felt that there was no reasonable hope of conviction on this. There wasn't enough corroborating evidence.
Yeah, he said, she said, does lead into a, but you know what you can do is, I guess, is by virtue of having a lot of complainants, you can create at least an understanding that this guy has a pattern, and that pattern, at least
it's not desirable.
Puts him in a position where he may not go to jail, but he won't be the governor of New York. That's what we learned from that experience. A California man gets second life term for synagogue attack, Aaron.
So this is the case of a 22-year-old white supremacist by the name of John T. Ernest. He was sentenced Tuesday to life in federal prison for killing a woman and injuring 3 others when he burst into a Southern California synagogue in 2019. This is on top of a life sentence he received 3 months earlier in state court. So they're hitting him, and they're hitting him hard with it. Ernest's attorney, Ellis Johnston III, says that my client acknowledges his actions were inappropriate, a statement which was greeted with skepticism by prosecutors.
Western Canada remains under extreme cold warning, wind chills dropping to minus 50 degrees centigrade.
Yeah, this is one of those days. Calgary saw minus 41 without the wind chill earlier this week. And they're looking at more chills between minus 40 and minus 45. Temperatures in Vancouver are actually expected to get down to minus 20 degrees as well.
Yeah. Alexa tells 10-year-old girl to touch live plug with penny. And by penny, I mean the scent, something we don't have anymore in Canada. This was in the U.S.
Yeah, this is in the UK.
UK. Okay.
Yeah, it's in the United Kingdom. The suggestion said, the girl basically asked Alexa, hey, give me a challenge to do. And Alexa said, plug a phone charger about halfway into the wall, then touch a penny to the exposed prongs, which is an offshoot from something that happened a year ago on TikTok, where people were actually dropping pennies on on exposed prongs that were already plugged in. So it's...
And what was the aim? To trip the breaker?
It's either A, trip the breaker, B, shock yourself, C, start a fire. I don't know. But yeah. Now, Amazon has confirmed that they have changed the algorithm, so nothing like that will ever come up again, hopefully. And that'll be going out on the next available Alexa.
Thank goodness the girl never had a chance to do it.
Oh, yeah.
Well, she probably said to Alexa, "What are you, a dumbass?" Did I ever tell you the story about I got frustrated and I swore at my phone because I was trying to Google search something, and you know how it's like whenever you say something and Google doesn't understand a word you're saying, they hear something, it hears something else, and it repeats something else. I told I told Alexa, well, I told Google in not so nice terms to go, um, yeah. Anyway, and it said, "I'm sorry you feel that way." That killed it had me in hysterics that it answered that question the way it did. I want to thank Eduardo Harari for allowing us to have a bit of extra time. With that extra time, is there something you'd like to talk about
Well, I was
that
just
we've left
looking.
out?
I was just looking at everything that we had on our list here, and I actually think we've covered all of it. So,
The
um,
only the only thing I didn't include was the motivation for me wanting to fight this virus tooth and nail. I have my mother here, 94 years old, visiting with me over the holidays. I'll leave it at that.
no,
So
and
for me,
I understand
I
that
have a
completely.
vested interest in making sure that she doesn't get sick.
No, my parents are 74. My father is coming off of colon cancer, so I fully understand the desire to want to be healthy for him and to keep him as healthy as I possibly can. That's why I'm fighting this as hard as I am as well.
And then there are a lot of parents out there who, not all of them, but many who wish to have their children vaccinated, but they can't. And the reason they want them vaccinated is because they're sold on the fact that a vaccine prevents deathly illness. So when people wonder why people appear to be sheep in a willingness to do something, I guess the final note I'd like to throw out here is the reason I want to get vaccinated and the reason I wear a mask and the reason I care about this virus not making the rounds, if you will, is because of my mother and people like her. You?
And it's this willingness to do things for people other than ourselves that define a functioning and working and healthy society.
We hope,
Well, that's,
right?
basically what this vaccination boils down to, Frank, is what I call the shopping cart test. I don't
Okay.
know if you've heard of the shopping cart
I
test.
think I have, but now remind me,
Well, the basic idea behind the basic premise behind the shopping cart test is,
who puts
can
them
you
away?
be a valid and functional member of society?
And how do you
If you
know that?
if you can't return a shopping cart, you should not be participating in society. It is honestly the least that you can actually do to guide a cart back into a corral for somebody else to collect later. You are providing employment for somebody
I got
by
another one.
doing this, and
I
it's
got
free.
another one for you. I got
Yeah.
another one for you. Why is it people have this terrible laziness to empty the garbage out of their car in a parking lot about 8-10 feet from a garbage can?
It's I think their fear of
Is
walking.
that's like your shopping cart test. And people just some people just don't have an interest, and in doing stuff like that. And the people that do, and I can assure you there's people right now swearing at their television sets saying, "You guys are too uh, kitty cats."
Yeah, no, I mean I've heard that before. I've been called all sorts of things by I've been called all sorts of horrible things by much better people. So the people that are swearing at their televisions right now, claiming that I'm a lefty pinko, it doesn't bother me that much.
Well, good news is you can't hear them. You can only
Exactly.
assume they're doing it. Yeah, but that's just it. It's also, it's not just the desire to be a fully contributing member of society, because that's what we're talking about, is about making a contribution to society. And we see people, we talk about them ad nauseum. Maybe I'm overstating the heroes that we have. A lot of people, in fact, they go, "What do you mean a grocery store cashier is a hero?" Because the level of hero has changed. I'm not saying it's lower or higher. I'm not, because that's not fair. I just think it's become more inclusive of people. The service industry, because of the pandemic, I think has earned a lot more respect from a lot more people. I mean, there's always people who aren't going to respect people regardless, but the service industry has drawn a lot of respect because those are the people who, to do their job, they have to interact with people and give up one of the main protocols to staying healthy, and that's social distancing.
Yeah, I mean, even with the plexiglass between you and the clerk, they're still at risk. And
Yeah.
you may go out and only see 3 or 4 people, like the guy you pay for your gas and your
Right.
smokes. Them, the barista at Starbucks, and the person at the drive-through at McDonald's. They see hundreds of people a day.
Yep. And
There
they
is
live in
no
an
comparison.
environment where the air accumulates. And what we know about, and I understand they still do it. And I think people know that people don't talk anymore about washing your hands, but we still have those bottles at doors. But there are other things that are transmitted because you have different things that are carried. Corona is not something that we pass with our hands. It is something that's airborne. But there are other things like the flu, the common flu, that you know it, that is transmitted that way. So you can pick up stuff from door handles and da 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 da. I don't want to sound like Howie Mandel now, but there is some stuff like that. That it's good that we do that. And one of the, I guess, on a positive note, we've inadvertently started to win the battle with the flu because of the relative intense desire to stamp out COVID has, handled the easier task of minimizing the damage done by the flu, which it does.
Exactly. So you got to
Anything
keep
else you
on
want?
keeping on at this point.
Anything else you wanted to talk about?
You know what? Honestly, Frank, I think I'm done. I don't
You
really have
done?
anything else off the top of my head. If
I'm
you've
I'm
got
looking
anything else you'd
I'm
like to
I'm
discuss,
looking over here and I'm making sure we talked about everything. Check. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, we talked about Bettman standing up for the Canadian NHL teams. Good for him.
yeah,
We talked about some hockey games because they actually happened. Um,
yeah,
yeah, we talked about some soccer. You know what we haven't talked about? Uh, we've got a couple of minutes if you're willing.
sure.
Basketball, the
Ah,
NBA, the NBA, and COVID has ravaged that league, and they're insisting. And the commissioner said we're not going to pause the season.
yeah, no, it's just a question of learning to live with it, I believe is what Adam Silver said, because
I,
it's
I
going to be
admire
around
his
for a while.
I admire his toughness, if that's what it is. But we can see what happens. Like you can do your best to keep it going. The Raptors have 4 regulars, and they have 4 regulars on their lineup. I think 2 of them serve beer in the stands. No, that was the joke that I saw. It said they have 2 of them serve beer in the stands, and another one um, collects tickets. And of course, then there's the player. Yeah, that's the difficulty. And there are a lot of players in the other leagues, like the Canadian Elite Basketball League is providing a lot of great players, that would otherwise not get a chance to be seen. So again, if we can end this on a positive note, the one thing about COVID that it's done is it's opened up opportunities for people to get jobs where otherwise they wouldn't be able to get one. It's opened up opportunities for people taking a job where employers feel so hard pressed to hire somebody, they're offering them bonuses. They're offering them money up front, Aaron.
Yeah, and you know what? Honestly, if you're going to be taking people on like that, I think it's well deserved. I think if you're asking them to put themselves in harm's way, or if you're asking them to expose themselves on a daily basis, yeah, there should be some sort of bonus for that. You're lucky in that you're retired. I'm
Yeah.
lucky in that I can work from home. We both have that sort of thing to look forward to. Um,
Our norm isn't being my norm is not being attacked at that rate, at that level. I just the people I feel saddest for are children, and schools. and them not being able to go, and them being told by some parents who don't want their children to go to school. I wonder what kind of long-term effect that kind of reaction to a fearful prospect, justifiably fearful, right? But there are a lot of things in life we don't want our children to experience. You know what I mean? Like that, my heart goes out to them, to the young children that can't go to school, that want to go to school, and don't want to stare at their parents all day. I know I didn't
Yeah.
want to when I was.
No, I've spoken with a few parents about that sort of thing, and a lot of them are saying, well, the first week is okay because they just want to lie around on the couch and watch television. But after a while, that fades, and you get to the point where you have to do something, you want to do something, and the second week is a real pain in the butt.
Yeah, no,
So
it's a horrible situation. Um, you know, uh, for defenseless people like children, especially the ones that cannot be vaccinated, it's sad for them. And for the people that work, for folks, minimum wage. A lot of the people who have to work, the service industry, the money that these employees are getting today is money they deserved a long time ago. They've been under, you know, I'm getting political, and I should step back. It's for me, it's like about minimum wage, right? I mean, I'm one of those people that believes that anybody who works, who puts in a good day's work, deserves that wage to be a livable wage. I'm not saying that they should get rich, but they should be able to afford a roof over their house, food, and dare I say it, if they have a family, an opportunity at least once a year for like a week to be able to afford to take the kids somewhere special that they can feel special. So it's not about going out on a drinking tirade. It's about family time, and families are so poor that they don't really have a family time. And I admire the ones who figure out how to do that with no money, because that's what they have to do, Aaron.
yeah.
And that's why, to me, minimum wage is something that sticks in my head. So I guess I prattled on long enough to go around the hour, huh?
Yeah, it looks like we definitely got there. There was actually one last thing I wanted to ask about. I
Sure.
was
With a
wondering if you,
minute left, he comes up
right,
with it.
it'll be
Go
quick.
ahead.
Have you heard anything about the baseball CBA? Because I haven't.
No, but Eduardo will tell us if he can hear us right now. He can tell us. We'll see if he can do it in a minute, because he listens to baseball on what's it called, radio, the one in your car. What's the
The
radio?
three-letter network or the sports network?
No, not the letter network. The radio that Howard Stern's on.
Ah, okay. Serious.
Sirius, yeah, Sirius
Yeah.
Radio. He listens to the Major League Baseball show all the time. We went to the Grey Cup. That's all we listened to. The 10, 12, 14 hours we were in the car. So I knew everything I needed to know about the CBA. Yeah, it was problematic. It hasn't. I can tell you that it obviously hasn't been resolved yet. But I can tell you also that the players aren't happy, and the owners are basically bricking up the house.
Yeah, no, that sounds about right.
Right? That's what's going on there. So the argument begins. So I guess Eduardo didn't hear the invitation.
Oh, he
So I
did.
guess.
He just said he wasn't going to chime in on it, and we're done for the day.
Oh, okay, all right. Okay, so let's end the show then.
Yeah.
Thank you, Aaron.
Thank you, Frank.
For Aaron William Freeland, I'm Frank Stanishi. Thank you for watching Candid Frank Live, Aaron, Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. This show can also be heard on the Spanglish World Radio Network. For Candid Frank Live, other news, entertainment, sports programming we offer, please check out spanglishworld.ca. Spanglish World. Watch it, hear it, read it, download it, and live it. Thanks for watching, everybody. Ciao for now.